And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. Look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network, also a co-host of this program. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Rich. I'm doing cooler today than earlier in the week, as I suspect you are as well.
As a matter of fact, as I sit here right now in Seattle, Washington, it is about 30 degrees cooler than it was on Monday here when we were trapped in the heat dome, you may have heard about, which, temperatures in downtown Seattle about 105 degrees, bad under any circumstances, but when you don't have air conditioning, 105 is hot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I hope you I hope you did, some things we used to when we were kids when it was hot outside. I grew up in New York. I remember we would unscrew the the fire hydrants and put another device on there that would spray water. You may have seen that in movies or shows with kids just playing on the hot asphalt with water coming out of the fire hydrants. And actually the fire departments actually would come out and do that stuff for us, to try to keep the heat down. That, get a little kiddie pool, dunk your toes in, wearing shorts. But, those are the things that we used to do when it was extremely hot. And I was growing up in New York, and we had no air conditioning in our house either. So I wonder how many folks resorted to those types of tactics to get through.
I didn't hear a lot about that, but I'm going to keep this tip in mind. This is your other tip of the week here. And the next time we hit 100 degrees in Seattle, I now know, head on out down to the sidewalk there and open up the hydrant.
Open it up. Let the kids frolic.
All right. Well, let's dive into our top story of the week. And as we record this week's episode, Eric, this is still, I think, this still qualifies as breaking news. This story actually just broke about 3-4 hours ago as we're doing this right now. And it's the news that Barracuda Networks has acquired SKOUT Cybersecurity. Now, Barracuda, I'm sure most of the folks who are listening or watching right now are familiar with. They do firewalls, they do backup, they do email security, a lot of different security and data protection kinds of products. They have now acquired SKOUT Cybersecurity, which may or may not be quite as familiar. SKOUT is they call themselves a cyber as a service vendor, but what attracted Barracuda to them is they have an extended detection and response, or XDR, offering. Now, XDR is sort of the big thing that's happening in security right now. You've probably heard of EDR, endpoint detection and response. If you take that input from the endpoint and you combine it with telemetry from a firewall, say a cloud security product, all the different security systems out there that are watching for threats. If you pull all that input together and start correlating it and maybe even coordinating responses to it, that's an XDR product. It is a big deal in the security space right now. And this acquisition is going to allow Barracuda to compete in that XDR market with companies out there like Fortinet and Trend Micro and others that have had significant XDR announcements just this year. The thing that particularly appealed to Barracuda about SKOUT, though, was that SKOUT has a 24/7 security operations center. So it's not just an XDR platform, it is an XDR service that is going to be able to correlate input from Barracuda products with input from other companies. So, when a company like Fortinet does XDR, they're mostly, at least initially, collecting input from their own products. SKOUT doesn't have its own firewalls, or I mean, they are basically in the business of collecting input from a lot of different vendors. And so they're going to be combining that ability, the integrations that they have today, with new and forthcoming integrations with email security and network security products from Barracuda to provide on an outsourced basis to an MSP that doesn't have a SOC that kind of not only XDR detection and response, but analysis as well from experts. So kind of a services play for Barracuda as well as an XDR play. And last thing I'll say, Eric, quickly is just if you are a SKOUT partner hearing this, learning about this news for the first time here, they emphasized at Barracuda that it's business as usual. That they may or may not merge partner programs down the line. They probably will at some point, but they are not planning to discontinue any of the integrations that they have right now. Whatever you have now, you'll continue to enjoy. Plus, at some point later on, you'll have the ability to incorporate some Barracuda products into your XDR monitoring.
Well, Rich, a very strategic play by Barracuda, right? Acquiring these capabilities. SKOUT Cybersecurity has built its brand on being able to collect all of this information from the endpoints in an infrastructure and exhibiting capabilities beyond many of its competitors and being really, really good at that. And as you mentioned, providing that, that response, the service component as well. So combining, a very mature platform that is pretty agnostic from a deployment perspective in all of these infrastructures, along with the service component. So now we have not only kind of the SaaS revenue with this very hot new emerging technology. We also have the recurring revenue component from the cyber as a service, the human component now that can provide that response as well. So very strategic on the part of Barracuda. And I think, puts them back in a very competitive position with some of these other vendors that they're competing against, to try to maintain and then build market share and be seen as a viable solution for partners. As you know, Rich, we cover a lot of stories about these vendors, introducing new cybersecurity services and partner programs for their channel partners. And, I bet, maybe Barracuda seeing this as an opportunity to, remain competitive and remain being seen as, that option and not potentially losing partners to some of their other competitors.
The folks at Barracuda don't have specific plans in place along these lines, but there is an opportunity for them that they are certainly aware of down the road, because one of the things that distinguishes Barracuda from some of the other security companies out there is they have their own RMM solution. And they also have a NOC service. And, when the analysts at a SOC detect a problem that is a legitimate problem in need of a response, what they will typically do is feed information into a PSA or an RMM. The ability to integrate their RMM and their NOC with this Security Operations Center and XDR service is kind of an interesting thing that might come along for them down the road. But you know what? This pretty decent segue into your tip of the week here, Eric, because we're talking about a new offering for SKOUT partners and Barracuda partners, and you want our listeners to be thinking a little more broadly or just in general about new offerings.
Yes, the tip of the week really is, what I'd like our listeners and viewers to do is to reevaluate what their clients and prospects are buying in order to adjust their strategy for services and solutions moving forward. So it's time to reevaluate what these business owners are buying. Rich, a quick funny story. I had a consulting client a few years ago. We'd get on our calls and he'd always say to me, "Hey, Eric, guess what my customers are buying?" And I'd say, what are your customers buying? And he'd say, "What I'm selling." So, as funny as that sounds and as true as it may have rung pre-pandemic, I think we have some adjustments to make. And this is kind of a follow-on from our recent conversations on this program, Rich, about the changing mindsets of business owners and buyers and executives in terms of how they see their need for technology, their appreciation for technology and security, and their transition to being much more strategic about investing in new technologies and seeing the security and technology component as now a requirement in their organizations. Like, we are now a security and technology organization that helps us fuel our growth and our ability to innovate and deliver services to our clients. So, I mentioned some statistics recently with you regarding these changing mindsets. And just to kind of remind us what those were, a survey conducted among business owners pre-pandemic and then post-pandemic, statistics that I've found indicate that a whopping 48% of those same business owners' mindsets have changed now to maintain and accelerate their adoption of more cloud movement to the cloud, more security services, and supporting remote workforces. These are the things that are now sticking as a result of being kind of forced into it to support remote workforces and continue operating during lockdown. Now these business owners, as a result of that, are seeing that, oh, wow, that's actually a value, a benefit to us. We should continue doing that, where they might have been reticent before or even fearful of the cost of these technology solutions and these new things that they see now as a definite requirement for them to move forward with. So again, just kind of pulling back, the guidance here is, are you, as a ChannelPro, an MSP, an MSSP, realigning your stack and your sales approach and marketing approach to take advantage of this new kind of awakening, would probably be an appropriate word, of these business owners in terms of what they're now seeing as requirements in purchasing moving forward?
Yeah, and I mean, I think, there are two dimensions to that awakening that you're talking about there, and one is maybe the more tactical aspect of it, which is that remote work, cloud computing piece of it, which obviously last year suddenly became an issue for them, and it's still something that they're thinking about now. But I also think, to echo something you were saying before, there's a greater appreciation among SMBs about the strategic importance of technology, and so there is also that strategic conversation you can have with the customer about the power of digitizing manual work processes and capitalizing on the cloud, not just to keep people productive, when they're outside the office and so on, but to serve customers and get into markets in entirely new ways. So yeah, I mean, this is not a new insight, but what happened in the last year and a half here is something that was going to happen anyway in the world of IT, but it has been dramatically accelerated. That means that everybody who is watching or listening right now needs to kind of keep pace with that change, so that they are providing relevant services to their customers and take advantage of that.
Right. And you keyed in on something very, very critical, Rich, is that you mentioned the acceleration towards this adoption that was forced upon these business leaders because of the pandemic. And in fact, some other statistics that I researched said that in some cases, that acceleration reported by these leaders was as much as 50 times faster than they normally would have moved in some of these directions. For instance, movement toward the cloud and remote work 50 times faster, over a short period of months compared to 2.5 or 3 or 4 years is what they reported it probably would have taken them to do that in their old mindset. And, the other key term you used, Rich, was kind of that strategic value that these business owners now see from their investments in technology, which now kind of resurfaces the age-old, the highly mature offering, I would say, which are, virtual CIO services, virtual CTO services, virtual CISO services. If they are now being more strategic, that opens the door for these more strategic value-added services that generate more revenue for the provider, but more strategic value for their clients.
And they are sticky services as well. So very important advice there. And that leaves us with time for just one more story this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. And, you know, one of the things that happened to a lot of people, a lot of businesses during the pandemic is faster cloud adoption, greater need for cybersecurity assistance. Another thing that happened to many of us is some weight gain. But in this week's news, we learn about a new technology for losing weight that, I'm sorry, no matter how bad you want to get that so-called COVID-19 off, maybe taking it just a little bit too far. This is a weight loss device. It was invented by researchers in the UK and New Zealand. I wish I had thought to set things up so that I could share a picture, but just imagine sort of attaching magnets to a tooth on the top of your mouth and a tooth on the bottom of your mouth, strong enough, basically, to, at least I think it's a magnetic attachment. Essentially, it only allows you to open your mouth 0.2 of a centimeter. Now, that is one way to make sure that you eat less, which could, you know, contribute to weight gain. But boy, oh boy, Eric, that's commitment right there.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture, and it just looks barbaric. It looks like a medieval torture, device to try to, keep your jaws clamped shut. And that's the solution for weight loss. Not changing behavior, not educating folks on, the good foods and kind of the cheap foods and, how to balance that and have a healthy lifestyle. No, we're just gonna, it looks like, just riveting your teeth together from the picture that I'm looking at. It's definitely not a healthy way to go.
Yeah, I can't endorse this strategy, and it's probably, you're gonna talk funny. You're gonna, nothing really good about it, folks. There are plenty of other ways to go about dropping those extra pounds. Well, folks, that is all the time we've got this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. We want to thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be back again next week with another episode for you. We are both a video and a podcast these days. So if you're watching the video right now and you're into podcasts, check us out in podcast form. We're on Google and Apple and Spotify and Stitcher and every place you get your podcast. Go ahead and become a subscriber there. If you take a few extra seconds and give us a 5-star rating there, it's actually going to help some of your peers and your friends and your colleagues find us a little more easily. If you're listening to the podcast right now, go ahead and check us out on video. We're on YouTube. Easiest way to find us there is to find the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and become a subscriber. If you click the little bell icon there, in fact, you'll get notified every time a new episode goes up. To read more about Barracuda buying SKOUT and everything else happening in the industry, to get all sorts of great business growth advice for your company, please visit channelpronetwork.com every day, because we have got great content for you going up there every day. To learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, please visit ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So as I say, we're going to be back again in a week with another episode for you. Until then, folks, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.